Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, finally Friday, August 10th, 2018, TGIF, and I hope that you are going to have a great one. This morning is time to cover off part two of how I got my terminated YouTube channel back for the fifth time. And as I said in part one, I'm not going to belabor the point, but I don't know anybody in the history of YouTube that has brought their channel back 3 times, 4 times, much less 5 times. It's not something to wear like a feather in your cap because, well, there was something wrong that you did in the eyes of YouTube. At least the first, would you say, at least the first layer of YouTube where they do reviews and where they dish out strikes. Something went wrong. And in my particular case, it had been years since I mean, literally years since I had strikes. And I knew most of most everything I put up passed muster, but it was still very frustrating to get that termination notice in May, especially since I was on the road when that occurred. I mean, it's always a bad feeling when you sit there and you think to yourself all of a sudden, well, 5 years, 10,000 videos, 10 million views right down the toilet. And you're thinking to yourself, you're not thinking about the money. You're not thinking about the views. You're thinking about all of that history that's been lost. Now, you can say you should back everything up. That's cool. But let me tell you what, as I said in part one, it's very nice the way YouTube organizes and allows you to have a home page. And if you look at my home page, you'll see multiple playlists that really help people enjoy. It's what you call a very deep channel. People make the mistake when they see the channel of thinking, well, you do a daily video, you might get a couple hundred views on it. But what they don't see is the dimensionality of the channel. That there's videos 4 years ago and how to do this and how to do that, and moonshine videos and gun range videos and metal detecting videos. You can literally get lost in the channel for weeks. There's that kind of depth. So while you're only seeing things, the little tip of the iceberg above, on a daily basis, there's a lot of things going on sub-channel because a lot of content has been put up. So when that disappeared, that was very painful to me. And in part one, we talked about the striking process and whether you can survive it to now get to the appeals process. And I said in concluding part one, you can get 2 possible letters when you reappeal a second time. And I'm going to assume your first appeal, as most are, is turned down because you didn't take time to read the terms and conditions. And you don't recognize what your error is, and you don't tell YouTube what you're going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again. You only have 1,000 characters, and you have to build almost a lawyerishly compelling case to get your channel reinstated. And I would say that 95% of the people, it's just no. We've decided to keep your channel suspended. That's a good denial. Okay, you don't think so? That's a good denial. The other one, though, is we've terminated your channel. And please note, you may not appeal this a second time. Well, that one hit the wall. There's nothing you can do about that. Now, you've already been, at this point, you've been denied 2 different times, okay? What you do next over the next period of months is absolutely critical, okay? Because YouTube's willingness to bring your channel back will be directly proportional to how seriously and how lengthy and how protracted you make the appeal process. In other words, most people, when they get terminated, they recognize, oh, I engaged in hate speech or bullying. Okay, how can I appeal that? I can't. Or I used somebody's music on multiple. I downloaded TV shows and things. I'm Walking Dead. I shouldn't have done that. Or pirated somebody's thing. That's easy stuff. There's no case of appeal. But the community guideline stuff is much, much more difficult. Not in terms of success, but in terms of really stating a case out that YouTube will like. But remember, your success will be directly proportional to your appeal process, meaning the number of times you appeal, and what you put into those appeals. It's the first time you get denied, 90% of the people are going to give it up. I don't care. Okay, it's done. The second denial, it's like, it's like now you've lost. Now you're up to 99% of the people who walk away at this point. But if you're one of those 1% of the people that care about your channel, then you must continuously appeal to YouTube, not on a daily basis, at most on a bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, or once a month. Now, a couple things are going to trigger in YouTube's algorithms. Number one, they're going to finally start to realize that you've probably read the terms and conditions of service, and you're putting it into your appeal. Because remember, every time you appeal, you always have that 1,000 characters that you can use. And your goal is to try to hit that from a lot of different directions. The first direction, I'm sorry for what I did, and these are the mistakes I made. Please give me another chance. This means if you're just out and out, did something very flagrant, like full nudity or something like that on YouTube, believe me, that's not as bad as copyright, okay? That's one way to approach. The second approach is, this is what I'm going to do differently this time. And the third approach is combining both of them. Now, there's cases, and I work on have worked in the past on the YouTube message boards, the help boards, and I will be starting that again. There's people that have appealed 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up to 17 times. And then on the 18th time, they got their channel back. Why? Because your probability of success is directly proportional to how many times you approach YouTube and tell them that you want your channel back. By about the 9th or 10th time, they know that you're pretty serious about your content. Plus, additional months have gone by, and you're on your probationary period. Notice the terminology YouTube uses when they send those notices. We have reviewed your appeal, and we have decided to keep your channel suspended. Now, YouTube will tell you that suspended and terminated, because if you go to the Rosie O'Kelly channel during the strike period when I was terminated, it would say this channel was terminated due to violation of YouTube's community guidelines. But the real reality is there is really a difference between suspension and terminated in the appeals process. And as long as you keep getting that letter that says, we've received your appeal and we have decided to keep your YouTube channel suspended, please read terms and conditions to learn more, you're still in the game. You're still in the game. And as simple as that seems to do that, that is really the reality of how channels come back on YouTube. In part 3, we're going to drill down on if you need to go beyond that simple appeal process, what other avenues do you have to potentially do? Now, this can be really frustrating because, and I'm not going to get into my discussions with YouTube about, problems that I perceived in YouTube that they were interested about. A lot of people wrote on my behalf, and that raised a little bit of a flag when snail mail comes into a place like YouTube. They start to take a little notice, and recently, over the last couple months, they've adjusted their algorithms, as I said in part 1. So those flagging incidents, those flagging surges become much more of a statistical anomaly, and YouTube's apt to take a closer look and be less likely to strike in those situations. But they've also gone, as I said in part 1, they've also gone and started to adjust their reviewers and the people that review the flags so that you remove some of the cultural biases in various areas of the world that are examining these strikes. So in part 3, we're going to call it Above and Beyond the Call of Duty. Thanks so much for watching part 2. Your thumbs up, excuse me, your thumbs up are appreciated, and your comments are welcome down below. Thanks so much, everyone.